you ever feel like you're copying other artists and you can't find your own unique voice? Do you feel like you're stuck in a creative rut? Let's explore the journey to finding your own signature artistic style. Feeling stuck is a common struggle. All artists do at some point in their artistic career. Is there a solution? A method to discover your unique voice? Let's talk about ways to figure it out. What is artistic style, and why is it important? Your style is important because it acts as a unique identifier, allowing viewers to recognize their work based on distinctive characteristics like brushwork, color palettes, and subject matter. Artistic style evolves over time as artists are influenced by their personal growth, cultural shifts, technological advancement, and exposure to new ideas, leading to changes in their techniques. But basically what I wanted to say was your style evolves over time. So let's take a look at some of the influences that cause us to change our style, some of the things we need to know about prior artists, and talk about how their art changed over time and how their art influences us today. There are 3 styles that have influenced me, and I'd like to show you a few examples of that. The first is Pointillism. That's actually something I used recently on a painting that I did for a landscape video. And I found suddenly I was doing all the dot, dot, dot in the trees, and I really enjoyed it. And I've used it one time since then, but I'd like to play around with that again in the future. The second form of artistic style that has really influenced me is realism, because I tend to lean toward painting things as I see them. And I'm certainly not a cubist or abstract or anything like that. And the third one that's really influenced me is Impressionism. Let's take a look at some of my favorites. Georges Seurat is known as the founder of Pointillism, a painting technique that uses little dots of contrasting colors to create a visual effect that's more intense and luminous than mixing colors on a palette. The dots are only distinguishable from a certain distance. Camille Pissarro was another artist that enjoyed working with Pointillism. So what I can tell you about Pointillism is it's actually a lot of work. It's a lot of work to put all those little dots in there. And of course, the famous Vincent van Gogh. He really enjoyed working with Pointillism and created some amazing masterpieces. Paul Signac was a friend of Georges Seurat, and he also enjoyed dabbling with that art form. And he made some truly wonderful colored paintings that were excellent. Pablo Picasso also dabbled in Pointillism. Thomas Eakins was America's most famous realist. Jean-François Millet was a French painter who founded the Barbizon School of Painting. This is The Gleaners, a very famous painting that he did. Gustave Courbet was a French painter who led the Realism movement in the 19th century, and he was committed to only painting what he could see. He rejected academic convention. And now we come to the Impressionists. Everyone knows Claude Monet. He made some truly beautiful paintings. He experimented with different colors at different times of day and night, and his lilies were beautiful. Edouard Manet was really good with his nudes. And Renoir, groups of people and scenes of boating and picnics, and was very famous. Mary Cassatt was also born in Pennsylvania, United States. She was renowned for her figures of mothers and children. She was part of an Impressionist group that lived most of her adult life in France. Edgar Degas was a French Impressionist, famous for his pastel drawings and oil paintings. He especially identified with the subject of dance, and more than half of his works depict dancers. Although he is regarded as one of the founders of Impressionism, he rejected the term, preferring to be called a realist. Alla Prima painting is a good example of everything old is new again, kind of like the bell-bottoms I wore in high school, and they're back. Van Gogh and Velázquez both used Alla Prima painting. In recent years, Alla Prima painting was used by Richard Schmidt, and if you haven't seen his art, look it up. He's really one of the greats today. Alla Prima painting uses wet on wet with bold brushwork, a real focus on the edges, so you have some sharp edges and some really soft and kind of blended together. It's for oil painting and it requires a lot of preparation. You want to get your colors mixed first so you can work quickly. Some of the tips for Alla Prima painting are squinting to simplify colors and shapes. There's more attention paid to warm and cool relationships, and there's a lot of attention paid to light values, how the light bleeds into the dark and vice versa. With Alla Prima painting, you start with shadows first because you want to keep them transparent. And you keep them transparent by using a thinner paint. Pablo Picasso is a great example of an artist who evolved over time. He had many different phases. He really started out traditionally. Then he had the blue phase and the rose phase, and he went cubist, and then he went an alternate kind of cubist. He had some very bizarre, to me, art at the end, but he was amazingly talented. How do you find your style? Explore and experiment. Try different styles and see which ones resonate with you. Impressionism, Realism, Pointillism, Cubist. Some people like to recreate a masterpiece that they've admired just so they learn more about that technique. Experiment with techniques like layering, color mixing, brush strokes, edges. Think about keeping a style journal or a mood board. Focus on your strengths and preferences. Play around with your subject matter, landscapes, still lifes, animals, portraits. Try techniques, smooth, textured, palette knife. Basically, you want to practice though. You want to practice often. Practice consistently and embrace your imperfections. We all learn from them. Just remember, your style is not a destination, it's a journey and will always be changing. Leave me a comment about your favorite styles. What have you done to improve your art? Who are your influences? Happy painting!